All right, welcome to another episode of Play Call. Today we're going to talk about whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to retire. I have Spoonie on the line, our favorite guest. Spoonie,
Uh-huh.
tell us what you
How you?
think. Tell us what you think.
Uh, well, yeah. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers, I don't think, you know. Let's start off with the comments he had said. He had came out and said that he's waiting to see how his body feels and stuff like that. So he didn't say no, he didn't say yes, but he kept it open. And a lot of times when players say that they keep it open is because they just want to give a lookout to
Hmm.
see what's available for them before they make that move, And it's hard. I always say, these guys leaving this game. When you leave the game behind, you leaving a game that they've been playing since they were kids, 5 years old, maybe even young, 4 to 5 years old. So 6 years old, seven. So the thing is, when you know you got to call it raps, I don't care how much money you have, how much money you make, when you gotta leave this game behind, it hurts. It hurts. So sometimes, knowing Aaron Rodgers, I feel he does want to play, but it has to be for the right fit. Right now with the Steelers, Mike Tomlin retiring, we don't know who the head coach is going to be for Rodgers to come back to the Steelers if that's the choice of the Steelers. Because remember, once they get their head coach, this conversation,
Yeah.
the plans, what they want to do. So it's a thing. Um, but if the Steelers do hire somebody that has ties with Rodgers, who's familiar with Rodgers, like a Mike McCarthy, even though they have beef, listen, that's an article
Mm.
that came out. We don't know years later if they kept in touch. Pittsburgh is Mike McCarthy's hometown. He's actively right now interviewing with teams. He interviewed with the Tennessee Titans, who's in the AFC. So he wants a coach. So can we see a Rodgers and Mike McCarthy reunion in Pittsburgh? I would never say never. I don't know how real the beef was that happened in Green Bay,
Right.
but at separate times, when Mike McCarthy moved on and Aaron Rodgers moved on, they have said, good things about each other when there was a question. So we don't know. I'm just putting hindsight out there, but if I'm Rodgers, I'm waiting for a situation where it fits him. When I mean what fits him, of course, is the coaching. Of course, is the roster. Does he have a solid roster?
Mm.
They can help compete for a championship. So to put on an example, I'll use like the LA Rams. We don't. There's rumors about Matthew Stafford retiring after the season.
Okay. So you think
It's
that would be a good
possible.
spot?
I mean, it would be a good spot for Rodgers, but we don't know if that's what McVay wants.
Right.
McVay is a top coach in this game. Arguably probably the best coach in this game today. Some people have Shanahan and him 1A, 1B. Who knows? But he's a top head coach, so it really depends on how he feels. But just to put out a team, like I said, if Rodgers, let's say for instance, Matthew Stafford does retire, well, who's over there with the Rams that has ties with Rodgers? Who's familiar with Rodgers? What Devontae Adams? Devontae Adams
Mm.
has been Aaron Rodgers' main receiver for years. Remember, Aaron Rodgers um, was the one who forced the New York Jets to trade a third round pick for Devontae Adams.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
remember that.
right, so Devontae Adams signed with the Rams, having a good year there in the playoffs. So I can see a situation where if Rodgers were to retire, I'm not sure, not Rodgers retire. If Matthew Stafford was to retire, excuse me, I can see Aaron Rodgers, if he still wants to play, um, make a move to the Rams. But of course, it has to be decided. I'm pretty sure Devontae Adams and they'll talk about it like, hey, of course, this, that, and the third. I think it would be a good. I think it would be a great fit. I think it'd be a very great fit because you're. I'll say this in Aaron Rodgers' career as far as the NFL. I think McVay is a very good coach and a very good play caller. I think this would be. I think Rodgers will have the best play call he's ever had.
Mm.
So and with the Rams and how they build, it'll be a good fit. But again, it's a wait and see. Things need to happen. Guys need a departure in order for us to put it. But it's a good plan. I think Rodgers to the Rams makes sense because of the veteran receiver over there. You have Devontae Adams. You got Puka Nakua, who's also a up and coming guy. Is a good receiver. You have a solid offense, solid running game between Williams and Blake Corum, a tight end and Parkinson. So you have a good offense, very good offense in my opinion. And you put Aaron Rodgers in there with McVay, hey, it'll make some good sweet music together.
Right.
So it's a good option. But again, we got to see how things play out. It's still early. The playoffs are still here. Let's see what happens after the Rams play the Chicago Bears this weekend, and see where it goes.
Okay. Before we move on, I just want to say, everybody like and subscribe to the channel. This is Spoonie, one of I would call our Cowboys expert, but NFL expert in general. All right, so that's one team. Can you think of a second place that Aaron Rodgers could possibly go?
A second place, another team, the Colts, Indianapolis Colts. I don't know how tied they are to. I don't know how close they are to Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
They have no quarterback.
Okay.
For the future, right? As well as for the future, they do have a solid offense. Um, I don't know if Rodgers has any ties to Steichen or familiar with the system, but going to the Colts would be a solid move. You have a receiver there. You have a top running back in Jonathan Taylor. A few things on offense you got to add on, which I'm pretty sure they will. And defense is not that bad. So the Colts are a playoff team. They should have been a playoff team this year, but injury at the quarterback position hurt. But I can see Rodgers over there. It's another good solid team that he'll play for. Any team that has a solid offensive cast, they can compete for the playoff, and he's just the missing piece at the quarterback position. I think that would be a good team for him and the Colts.
So the Vikings and the
I mean,
Colts.
the Colts and the Rams.
Oh, the
Now, here's the thing. Maybe the football god spoke to you, Trish, because you said the Vikings, and you know what? That is another team that has a quarterback. I'm not saying has an issue, but
right.
I'll say this. I'll say this, and I think the football guys were talking to you because here's the thing about it. When you look at the Viking situation, we're talking about a team with a very good defense, and if you put Rodgers in that offense, and I'm talking about with three good receivers, two running backs, a Pro Bowl tight end, and especially one of the receivers is Jefferson, who was one of the top receivers in the game. These guys, didn't do well because of the QB position, and
Mm-hmm.
when you have multiple injuries and multiple injuries throughout the season
Right.
with a young and also a young rookie quarterback who's still developing, Minnesota went backwards. And for what we learned was last in 2024 when Minnesota was in good shape at quarterback, they had Sam Darnold, and there were some of the offensive players wanted the Vikings management to retain Sam Darnold, but because Minnesota drafted Mike McCarthy, no, excuse me, JJ McCarthy, excuse me, in the first round, they wanted to see they play, and he's been in and out with injury. So, I don't think this Minnesota team is going to want to see another year of in and out, in and out, in and out.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Minnesota Vikings and Aaron Rodgers is available, hey, I'm calling him. I am calling him. You know what, Trish? I think the football guys were talking to you because Rodgers in Minnesota is better than Rodgers on the Rams and Rodgers on the Colts. I think Minnesota's a more complete team all around.
If they have
If
Aaron.
yes, oh yes, yes. So thank you for that one. So that's a good team though. That is a good spot for Aaron Rodgers. So Minnesota Vikings, Rams, and then Colts in that order.
So while you were dropping some knowledge on us, I looked up some facts, and it's I know why you say he's gonna retire, because he's old, like
Right, right.
old football old. He's not. He ain't like we close to Aaron Rodgers' age,
Yeah.
right? Like, football
Yes.
old. He's
Mm-hmm.
old. He's gonna be 43. Fun fact, not so fun though. And
Right.
they said there are only 7 quarterbacks to
Mm-hmm.
appear in one game at the age of
Mm-hmm.
43
Yeah.
or older.
Mm-hmm.
Brady,
Mm-hmm.
um, George Blanda, and Vinny Testaverde,
Yes. I know
Warren
both of
Moon,
them. Yep.
Doug Flutie,
Mm-hmm.
Steve DeBerg, and
Yep.
Philip Richards.
Yep.
Rivers, sorry.
Yep. Yep.
Philip
Steve
Rivers.
DeBerg, all backup. All backup. Yeah.
Old.
Yes.
So history isn't working with our homeboy
No.
Aaron Rodgers, our homeboy, but we'll see. The off season is early for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when do you think he should be signed by if he's going to play next season? Because you know how Aaron be dragging his feet though.
Oh yeah, 100%. If anything, it's going to be the same thing he did with the Steelers. They'll probably wait till after the draft because maybe even before the draft. The situation is that as an older quarterback, some of these guys don't like the mini camps, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's an older vet, but around March where this free agency starts, where it's the
Right.
new league year, and that's where you get a glimpse of what's going on. And again, with Minnesota having McCarthy there, it doesn't have to be announced soon because he has a quarterback now. With Pittsburgh, it was a little bit different because Pittsburgh, they went through a whole draft and they didn't draft a quarterback. Where some thought Julian
Mm-hmm.
Sanchez would
Mm-hmm.
be drafted by them and others, but everybody caught kind of read between the lines that Rodgers is signing with the Steelers, and he waited till after minicamp. Now, I'm just putting the pieces together because even the year with the Jets, when the first year with the New York Jets with minicamp, he didn't attend minicamp. He didn't want to go to minicamp.
Right.
So to me, it was like, well, with the Steelers last year, um, let's wait. I'll sign after minicamp, and everybody's scratching their heads like, you don't draft a quarterback. You're going with this because it felt like they already negotiated something. It just wasn't announced until they were ready to announce after minicamp. Now, some people ask me, "Well, minicamp is not important." No, minicamp is very important. Any type of camp is very important because this is where you get to know your players, your teammates. So you want to spend time with your teammates. You want to spend time, especially when you're brand new, especially where it's a new offense or a new
Right.
scheme. You want to spend that time, but everybody's has a different take at it. But to answer your question, around March will be the time where we'll get a glimpse. Unless he announces he retired beforehand, which I don't think he will because for him to say, "See how my body feels" and stuff like that. Well, the more you sit and wait, your body does heal. So maybe by the time he decides, "Hey, I'm good to go," and we'll have that team. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's trying to find out behind closed doors what would be a good team. I
Well,
like the Minnesota pick a lot. I
he-
like that Minnesota pick.
here's the thing. If I'm Minnesota though, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm and I'm glad you mentioned that they have very little depth at the QB
Right.
position. They only
Okay.
have Mason. I think it's Mason Rudolph is their backup. Is this that's
Yeah,
his name?
yeah, yeah.
Is
You,
that
you
it?
got base. You you got Mason Rudolph. They did, I forgot the kid's name, but they drafted a quarterback out of
Right.
Ohio
Right.
State last year. He didn't play this year. He was out for the year. So, I mean,
Regardless of
mm-hmm,
whether or not
mm-hmm,
Rodgers decides he comes back, like they have to draft a quarterback
yes,
100%.
100%, hundred
So,
percent.
it's going to be up to whether or not the Steelers. Nah, actually, I mean, okay, I don't know what how much Aaron is going to be in the market and what the salary cap is, but I mean, do you see Mason Rudolph being able to lead or be
No way.
a mentor to a new drafted quarterback?
No disrespect to Mason Rudolph. He's been a career back of his whole career.
Right.
I, I, I'll say this: any quarterback can be a mentor. Even holding a clipboard, you could be a mentor. You win this game for a long time. Mason Rudolph came out from Oklahoma as a quarterback. He has some okay games when given the opportunity, some very bad ones. Is he's a backup. But the thing is, with the Steelers, you always want somebody who you feel could lead, and you made the playoff. You're not picking in a top range to get a top quarterback in this upcoming draft. You're kind of picking where towards the back, where so you may get somebody in the second round, but of course, it's early. We never know what a team would do to, make a trade to
Right.
move up and get a quarterback. But quarterbacks is very is in demand, very high in demand, and if you don't get one at the right time, you're kind of lost in the saddle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's other options they can make trades. I'll give you a perfect example of guys like Kyler Murray out of Arizona. The Cardinals and Murray ready. It's been announced, not announced like fully, but it's put in the air already that they both going their separate ways. So
Hmm.
Kyler Murray is a quarterback that will be available. Tanner McGee, backup quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's put on tape. He has tape of playing the last game of the season a couple of times, preseason.
Hmm.
There was wording that some teams want to look at him. I don't see not a high trade, but maybe a third or fourth round pick
Okay.
for his services. So the Steelers have options. They really do have options.
They have
I
options, but I feel like they definitely have to sign Rodgers. You at least. I mean, here's the
mm-hmm,
thing. I,
mm-hmm.
they just can't bring in a rookie.
Yeah, here's the thing. You got a DK Metcalf who they traded a draft pick, a high draft pick for, and they paid him. He's one of the highest paid wide receivers in the game today, right? So the thing is, before him there was George Pickens, and everybody know how
Hmm.
George Pickens was upset, and as any receiver should be. So now you got DK. You be wasting DK Metcalf's career if you don't have somebody established to get him the ball.
Right.
You'll be wasting
Mm.
the
Mm.
the other players you sign as far as veterans. See, now the Pittsburgh Steelers are not that much of a young team. There's a lot of older veterans on that defense. I'm talking about T.J. Watt, I'm talking about Hayward, Jalen Ramsey. So you got some guys with maybe 1 or 2 years left under their belt. So what I'm saying is this team is made to win now rather than rebuild. So that is correct, Tris. They will want to sign Rodgers back. The thing is, again, I think it's the coaching. Let's see who they hire as a coach. Any ties to it? Do we know if Rodgers maybe, if he does want to come back, has a demand who's out there that he will want? But if I'm Pittsburgh, I am not gonna hire a coach that you want that is only gonna give me short amount of years.
Right.
I
Right.
don't want that. I want this for the long haul. For the long haul. Mike Tomlin and Steelers fans are gonna find out. They're gonna love him more that he's not here because it's not easy to do what Mike Tomlin did for this team. We're talking about a guy who's never had a losing season. He's always kept this team upright. I get that some of the fans wanted somebody different with new ideas, creative ideas, X, Y, and Z. But here's the kicker: when this guy is always winning, you want to stay on that winning track. The, it's not gonna get. It's not guaranteed to win a Super Bowl. But you know what the hard thing
Mm-hmm.
is keeping teams competing consistently in the playoffs to get there. Now, if you give me a coach that is gonna guarantee to get me in the playoff every year, but not guarantee for a Super Bowl, I will take that coach because it's not easy to get one. If you can coach my team that gives me a chance to win it, I'm gonna take that. And
Yeah.
that's what Mike Tomlin did for the Steelers. So again, it depends on the coach, but Chris, you're right. It makes sense for them to resign Rodgers because of what you got, the kind of players you have, and a rookie quarterback. It's not gonna be all right. It's not gonna be all right. It'll be the same thing that happened a couple of years ago with,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm a good receiver and wait for this quarterback to come out of his shell and X, Y, and Z, and that's a tough thing. It's a
So
tough thing.
let me think about this because if is this DK's first season with the Steelers?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They convinced Rodgers to come back for one more year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that gives them enough time to draft a QB this draft, give a little bit of mentorship, right? Now,
Yeah.
hopefully, I don't know what picks they have, but hopefully they can scoop up someone potentially good quarterbacks that Aaron Rodgers can mentor. And to be honest, at this age and with the right proposition, Aaron Rodgers is going to leap at being thought of as a mentor at this point in time. I think Father
Yeah.
Time has been like he's realizing that this is winding up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they draft a quarterback, um, stay one more year, but the the reason why they want him to stay another year, not just to train up this quarterback, but DK Metcalf, right? He's on his first year of a very large contract, 4 year, $132 million contract. What I'm seeing is he has a potential out in 2027.
Right.
So I say give him one more year to be able to play with Rodgers. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna win anything, right? Because a new coach. I mean, it's very hard to win like a Super Bowl under a new coach,
Mm-hmm.
but at least DK gets to play on a team with like a veteran leading the helm.
Yeah. Yeah.
After
And
yeah,
mm-hmm.
after that
Yeah.
year he opts out, goes where he needs to go. Aaron Rodgers goes where he needs to go. That quarterback hopefully is ready to go.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. This could be a 3 year window, a 2 year window where what they want because like the quarterback they have is Will Howard. Now they like Will Howard. They may not want to draft a quarterback if they feel that Will Howard, um, can be developed. He's a 5 year starter in Ohio State. They in the playoff. He shows a solid showing. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback,
Mm.
but yeah, it'll be wise for them to try to keep Rodgers, um, if they can, or hey, go in a different direction. And I don't, listen, people don't like Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has been with one team his whole career, and I always say sometimes a change of scenery helps a player out
Right,
and the team out.
right.
And I can see Kyler Murray in Pittsburgh. Now, I'd love to see Kyler Murray in Pittsburgh with Mike Tomlin. That's the
Mm,
thing. We don't know who the coach going to be. So with the head coach being higher, that would give a better indicator of what direction this team is really going in. Um, they haven't had nobody, for what I know, to come in and interview yet. said, I still like as we spoke the other day. I still believe Brian Flores can be that guy because Brian Flores was with um,
Right.
Mike Tomlin when after he went with that lawsuit situation
Mm-hmm.
and the thing about the Roonies which I love about the Roonies they're the ones who came up with the Rooney Rule and they made an example by hiring Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin didn't come, he was with Tony Dungy as a passing game coordinator, coaching the secondary, and he wasn't an experienced head coach with championship ring under his belt. It took a young guy who they believed in, and listen, great run,
Yeah.
great run of his career. So the way I look at it is with Brian Flores. Brian Flores, to me, is the same type. He's younger.
Mm-hmm.
He's young. He's very serious.
Right.
And I think the Roonies will be the owners to take a chance and hire him. Now, does Rodgers come out of retirement to play with Pittsburgh with Flores? I don't know.
Right.
I don't see that. But I still think Pittsburgh still can get another veteran quarterback in Kyler Murray, somebody a little bit younger, somebody who still has a lot left in his game. New scenery, new change, new situation,
Mm-hmm.
and I still think it'll be a good situation for him.
Okay. Well, looks like the Steelers got a lot of chess moves they need to make in this
Yeah.
offseason, and I know you're gonna keep up on it. I'm gonna keep up on it, even though
Yes.
I should mind my business and mind the Jets. But like, it's good looking at somebody else try to figure out what they're gonna do. But that's it for Play Call. You guys like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back with I promise this is not a Steeler show, but the Steelers are stealing the show apparently. So you guys take care and we'll see you soon.